Hey, everybody, let's talk about psychic hearing or your energetic hearing sense. Hello, I am Felicity Doyle, your soul alignment coach, and today we are going to be talking about psychic hearing or your energetic hearing sense, as I like to say it, because ultimately I don't like to use the word psychic. If you know me, you know that I don't like to use that. And this is because it makes it sound like it's a magical thing that only some people have. And I got to tell you, we all have these abilities. We all have these sensory abilities because we are an energetic being. As an energetic being, we have energetic senses, just like our physical senses. Okay, so I have other videos on this. I'm not going to go in depth about it in this video, but you can definitely watch my other videos. I will put a thing up here about it or one of the sides. You'll see. Anyway, let's talk about your energetic hearing sense. All right. First, I got to get a sip. All right. So, clairaudience. This is what it's called. It's called clairaudience, and it's the ability to pick up energetic information through this inner hearing sense. Now, there are times that it's gonna feel like it's coming from the outside, or you're actually thinking that you're hearing it from the outside. This isn't usually the case. All right. Now, it is possible, don't get me wrong, it is possible to potentially hear, it from the outside source. But again, you're picking up information energetically in your inner headspace, if you want to call it your so yeah, I call it your mind space or whatever you want to call it. All right, so anyway, you're picking up that energetic information in there, you're interpreting it as sound, as words, as language, as information, but it's essentially a frequency, it's a packet of information that you're accessing that way through your psychic hearing sense or your energetic hearing sense. All right. Now, the problem with clairaudience is that it's really easy to mistake it for your own internal voice, because we also have our internal talking voice. At least most of us do. There are some people that don't. There are some people who actually don't have an internal voice or an internal experience. And so you won't necessarily have this same experience. But for those who do, for those that talk to themselves or hear their own internal voice, like when you're thinking about things, right? That same voice, that same sound is how you hear guidance. So a lot of times when you hear guidance or you're picking up guidance, it may actually end up being in your own voice, in your own internal talking voice. And this is why sometimes it's so hard to know whether or not you're actually receiving guidance or not. And I tell you, that drove me crazy in the beginning, because when I first started like discerning my psychic abilities, I don't, I don't like that word, but my psychic abilities, it was really hard for me to discern, because mine started off as my own voice. But what I noticed, and this is why I like to talk about being, your own scientific observer, is if you're not taking the time to observe your own senses, your own abilities and how they work, then you're not necessarily differentiating things. So I really took the time to notice, oh, you know what? My own inner voice was in a certain area of my mind space, right? In my inner awareness. And my own talking voice like required effort. Like when I'm thinking about something, I can feel the effort that I'm exerting to think about that thing, right? And so that was a really easy way to begin to differentiate, because I noticed sometimes when I'd hear my own internal voice, it would come out of the blue, right? like it required no effort from my part at all. And that's exactly the truth, right? Because that's how the guidance came in. And so when you start noticing that you're hearing your own internal voice, like out of the blue, talk to you about something, more than likely, that, my friend, is guidance. That, my friend, is actually your guides, your higher self, the universe at large, using your own internal voice to communicate with you. I know, right? It's crazy. And then you may also notice things like, let's say you have a mother or a father who has passed, and you hear their voice in your mind, right? In your mind space, like as if they're kind of telling you things like, don't forget to do that, or something that maybe they always used to say to you, right? As you're walking out the door, don't forget your hat and your keys, or whatever the thing is, or the things that they used to say to you. Don't be surprised that they aren't actually communicating with you, that they may still be communicating with you. And it's not that it's necessarily your imagination that you're making these things up, or that you're just remembering that conversation, that you may indeed be hearing them as they're speaking to you from beyond. I don't want, beyond is such a funny word, because it's not really beyond. See, think about it this way, all right? So we are all energetic beings, right? We are beings of pure energy and light having this human physical experience, right? And there are some of us who are pure beings of energy and light that are not having this physical experience, because either they have passed from this physical experience, or they're waiting to come into this physical experience, but they're just like us, right? And so they're using those energetic senses to communicate with us, right? Because that's what we did before we were in this physical body, having this physical experience. And it's what we're going to do after we leave this body. We're going to do the same thing. And we're still using them in this physical body. It's just that, like I've been saying, the physical senses are so intense and so loud and so stimulating that it's hard to notice our subtle energetic senses. And so when we're paying attention to our clairaudience, our hearing sense, it's really hard to discern, okay, what I'm hearing actually is guidance. It's not actually my own thoughts, and again, like I said, paying attention to, are you exerting the effort to create that thought? Are you exerting the effort to have that inner conversation with yourself, where you're like talking to yourself? Or do you notice, like, sometimes you're like talking to yourself, about something, and then you respond to yourself? Have you noticed that before? Because I tell you, half that conversation is probably guidance, or probably a deceased relative or something. You are not having that back and forth conversation solely by yourself. So don't worry. And again, I know a lot of people worry about clairaudience in regards to, talking to yourself and hearing things. And I know this is a big concern and a big worry. And I tell you, don't worry about it as long as what you're hearing are positive and supportive things. Okay, because that is guidance, and that is a good thing. If you are hearing things that are harmful, that make you feel bad about yourself, okay, these are not healthy things. And this is a time that I require that are not, what am I trying to say? That you should consider, talking to someone about that. That in that moment, what is required is, therapy, or getting some help, so that you can have those positive thoughts, positive self-affirming thoughts. Because I think a lot of times in life, we may have had a really hard life, a really hard childhood, and we've learned, like negative programming and negative language and negative self-talk. And if we are hearing negative self-talk, or we are hearing negative guidance talk, either of those do require therapy. Because I think everybody should go to therapy. I think is a great thing, because I think it helps us to bring us back into a state of balance, right? And I think that there should never be any shame over getting that kind of help. I think it's fantastic. And, you know, and how fantastic is it to be able to like talk about yourself for an hour, you know, and get feedback on that. I love that stuff. So don't even worry about that. Okay. So I just wanted to put that disclaimer in there. But yeah, as far as the positive type of guidance, this is what I'm talking about. Okay. The positive type of guidance where you're hearing something in your inner awareness, start paying attention to where you're hearing it. Okay. Are you hearing it on the right side or the left side or in the middle? Are you hearing it more towards the front or towards the back? Are you hearing it exactly like your own talking voice, or is it slightly different? Because what you'll notice is that there are slight modifications to like your inner voice. Like you might notice it having just a slightly different tonal quality or a slightly different emotional quality. And so pay attention to those slight differences because they'll make a difference for you to be able to recognize, you know, later on instantly, okay, wait a minute, that was guidance, that wasn't me. And then when you can recognize that fast, then you can respond to it, that you can validate it. And this is something that you really need to do. You really need to make sure that you are validating that experience. So when you notice that you are receiving guidance, make sure that you validate it. Yes, that was guidance. That was absolutely 100% guidance. When you do that, it makes it stronger. It makes those abilities stronger. Okay. Now, as you are developing your clairaudience, it's so important to remember that this is not an isolated sense, okay? You are not purely clairaudient. You have all the clairs, you have all the energetic senses, okay? They work like your physical senses, right? Your physical senses don't work independent of each other, they work together, right? They work together to create a whole sensory experience for you. And your energetic senses, your psychic senses do the same thing. All right. They're constantly working to interpret, to receive and interpret energetic information and to give you that energetic information. So if you are isolating those senses, if you are choosing just to hear your energetic hearing sense, I encourage you to start asking yourself, what else am I picking up? Am I picking up something visually in my inner vision? Am I picking up something in my inner feeling sense? Like, what am I noticing? Am I getting downloads of my claircognizance? What am I observing besides my inner hearing sense? Because this will get you to start working on all of your energetic senses and paying attention to the fuller picture. And what you might start to notice is that your abilities start piggybacking on each other, right? So you may hear something and then you may get an image, or you may get a sudden knowing, like I hear something and then I know something. And this is how they work. They work together, okay? So start paying attention to this, start paying attention to how they work together, and start validating your experiences. And again, also be the scientific observer of your abilities. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Please don't do that. Everybody's abilities work slightly differently. And when you compare yourself to other people, then you have an expectation of how your abilities should work. And I tell you, they probably don't work like that. They probably work just like yours do, like they should do. Okay, so the best way to develop your abilities is by observing for yourself how your abilities work and then validating them. Okay, so make sure you're doing that, observing and validating. And play. Okay, do this in the spirit of play. Have fun with, you know, observing your abilities. And like I said, notice the differences. Am I exerting the effort to talk inside of my own mind space, to communicate with myself and listen to myself? Or am I hearing things out of the blue? And if I'm hearing things out of the blue, I can tell you more often than not, that is guidance. And when you begin to validate that, even if you're not sure, when you begin to validate that, you'll notice that it gets a lot stronger and it happens more often. So yeah, have fun with this, you guys. Play with your clairaudience and know that this is a real sense that you really have because you are an energetic being. And don't forget that it's not about just developing your psychic or energetic senses. It's about embodying yourself as an energetic being, because when we remember who we really are, when we tap into this presence and really be our genuine, authentic selves, that soul presence, having this physical experience, then our psychic or energetic senses are a natural extension of embodying ourselves, our true selves. And so, like I said, it's not about just developing your psychic senses. It's about embodying your true self. And when you do that, your abilities will open up. They will start to happen because it's just a part of being you. Okay. All right. So if you are ever interested in coaching or learning how to embody your true authentic self and step into your psychic or energetic senses or your inner guidance sense or all these different things, message me. I would love to work together with you. Anyway, I hope you have a fantastic day and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.